to that point, I think there have been three parks that have been major catalysts for landscape architecture in cities in North America and actually the world. And it is most definitely the High Line from field operations, Clyde Warren Park in Dallas from Office of James Burnett, which is a deck park over a highway. And then my third one would be Michael Van Valkenburg's Brooklyn Bridge Park. And the three of those have really become these signifiers and these icons that many cities all over the world have wanted to invest in. So are we going to deck our highway? We can do that. We wanted Clyde Warren Park. Okay, we've got this kind of little trail system that we can do. We got to make a High Line. And then I would say that in the current time, Michael Van Valkenburg's office is the most sought after. Everyone wants a Brooklyn Bridge Park. And they've gone on to make Maggie Daley in Chicago. They've made some huge, massive parks across the entire United States. Mm-hmm. And in many ways, he's kind of like a modern Olmsted. He has a very kind of curvilinear form. They create these identities. They really pack in a lot of plants when they first open to where it looks fully grown, it looks fully vegetated. And he's good at what he does. His firm is good at what they do.
What would you say like makes these spaces successful? Like what makes the High Line, Brooklyn Bridge Park, like what sets them apart from other kind of urban parks in these projects?
Well, I think for the High Line, what set it apart is that it was so, in many ways, random. Like here's this elevated rail line that's been forgotten in this, funky part of Manhattan. And then what if we made it into a park? And it's kind of like, okay. And then you go out there, but you see it works because it's connecting so many different things. It's a spine that literally connects this larger skeletal system of the urban fabric there. For Clyde Warren Park, it's somewhat similar. It bridges a massive highway in Dallas, but it builds the entire downtown urban arts district together. And it made people want to actually be downtown in Dallas again. So you get kind of major urban but hotter city. And it's becoming, more popular to be downtown and be outside. And then Brooklyn Bridge Park, I think what really makes it work is, one, the views of Manhattan is one thing that I think is super attractive, but it's the amount of program. There's soccer fields, there's trails, there's children's playgrounds, there's mounds, there's hills, and it feels like you're in this in-between zone where things have been sculpted to where it doesn't feel like you're in the middle of a city, but you're still working in the contours of a very urban environment. And so it shows that you can invest in the in-between zones. For a developer or for a city, it shows that we can do that, but look at the payoff. And like the amount of revenue that HRA can figure out as like an advisor team, I'm sure the amount of revenue they can say that was produced in response to Brooklyn Bridge Park there's a lot of commas in that figure.
Do you see any influence of those like mega parks being created near water because of the need of more resilient design, more sustainable design and things like that?
I think there's a lot that have been around water. There's so many parks that have been built around water, whether that's South Point Park in Miami that Hargraves did, all the way up to Brooklyn Bridge Park in New York. Field operations just opened up a massive new waterfront for Seattle, I think just a couple weeks ago. And then we can look at any coastline as well. But there's also been a fairly significant investment in the interior. There's been a lot of river projects. There's Tom Lee Park in Tennessee that Scape opened with Jeannie Gang's office. There's a gathering place in Tulsa, which Michael Van Valkenburg did in Oklahoma. There's typically a water component, but there are some fairly large kind of non-water-based parks that have also been created, not necessarily to the same scale or to the same fanfare, but they do exist, and I mean, they are being made.
Most Podern.
Most Podern.
Most Podern.
Most Podern.
모스트 포던 팟캐스트